Hello. Hello. Welcome to episode 4 and episode, what is it? 5. No,
It
4.
is episode number
It's
4, yeah.
Yeah. And today we have Malaysian born winner of what's it called? Poetry Grand Slam in Singapore last year, was it?
Official title is Asia Pacific Poetry Slam.
Yes, and you are the grand champion, or they call you the Poetry King, or which is it?
It's just winner of competition.
Winner of competition. Yeah.
I guess it's quite apt for them to call it a grand slam because usually they call it like it's a slam, right?
No, there's no grand in it. It's just Poetry Slam. So I'm Poetry Slam champ.
Okay.
Poetry Slam champ. 8 rhymes.
Thank you. Yeah.
That itself.
Yes.
Poetry, pure poetry.
So welcome to the show,
Thank
Azam.
you. Thank you.
Azam, yeah.
Good to have you here.
And we're all very proud. When I saw the news came out, I was like, whoa, Malaysia boleh. Somehow we did it in Singapore, right?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, and there are Singaporeans, I assume?
There were Singaporeans.
Yes. In your face.
Okay.
Don't know why there's the animosity, but a bit like, it's always like a battle,
I
right?
can neither confirm nor deny that.
Okay.
But I'm sure there must have been a lot of that at the competition, huh? Singapore, Malaysia, like.
No, actually, the thing is,
Are there poems about it?
there were previous poetry slams where Malaysia and Singapore came out against each other.
Yeah.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, there was a previous one where we lost to Singapore. So I think this was, in a way, kind of a redemption.
Yes.
In a way, yeah.
You always
And
like
it was on home ground, their home ground. It was kind of cool.
feels good, right?
It does. It definitely
Yeah.
feels good.
But also, like, I remember reading someone wrote your article here on the Star.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, take us through, man. How was the entire competition like?
Okay.
I think most people will have zero idea of what the scene is like.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, the poetry slams in general are basically rounds of poetry competition where poets perform and they get judged either by a panel of judges or other forms of judgment. And what happens is they then filter out the rest, and once you get to the finals, they'll announce who the poetry slam champion is.
What is the criteria for? Because I assume every poet would write their material based on their own background as well. And everyone will have different background. I mean,
Yeah.
the Singaporeans struggle with different things than the
Yeah,
Malaysians.
definitely. Yeah. I think because in that particular competition, the Asia Pacific Poetry Slam competition in Lit Up Festival Singapore, that one was participated by 4 countries, which was Indonesia, Philippines, Singapore, and Malaysia. So
Interesting.
I think just by listening to the poetry they have, there were a total of 17 participants. Just listening to the breadth of topic and variety of subjects that they have, you can really tell that there's a difference between what we say and what they say. For example, we met a lot of poets from Philippines. So shout out to the poets from Philippines. And what they did was they had a lot of very touching poems. And this was reflected in their poetry based on their surrounding in Philippines. As you know, there's some turbulence or a situation of turmoil in Philippines.
Because I assume this is after Duterte came into power, and things didn't exactly go as what people expect.
Yeah.
As usual lah.
Sometimes, expectation does not meet reality, and disappointment manifests itself in poetry, And I think that's the other thing that I find very special about poetry. It's like, because it's technically the easiest form of art, It's not like you need to pick up a paintbrush, you need to learn an instrument, you need to memorize the script. You don't really have to do all that.
But it's still an art though. It's still like a pretty...
It is.
But
that's why it's so direct, you see? Because you don't need a skill, essentially,
But you need to write.
You need to write.
Yeah,
yes.
I guess in a way it's just verbalizing stuff.
Yeah.
Or writing things down, but...
There's no formal way of really learning poetry, how to perform poetry. Yes, you learn about literature. Yes, you learn about, sastra and everything, but you don't really learn how to perform it. So that kind of thing, writing your own poetry, performing your own poetry, that kind of thing, I think it's really innate in everyone. It's just whether you write your thoughts up and perform it on stage. And of course, after a few years, your skills improve, your poetry gets better, and then, you win some things.
So the core like concept of poetry, I guess, is in, like you say, writing and language. Have you always had like a thing about writing or like thing for languages that?
I'd say that my path to poetry was a bit more unique because I don't originate from the arts stream. I've never studied arts my whole life. And on top of that, I was a stutterer when I was young. And being a stutterer, you don't really have the ability to communicate with other people. And that's why I wanted to find a way to, catalog all my thoughts in a way. So I started writing them down in a book. Hopefully one day, I might be able to say them. And after a while,
how old were you when you started doing this?
I started writing this when I was young, like early primary school, I think. Yeah, I started writing rhymes, short rhymes and this and that. And it's because, it's kind of hard to talk to people, but you had all these things to say in your head, but you really can't get your mouth and tongue to work. So, you just write them down a whole lot. I was fortunate enough to be in Science Remban, which exposed me to debating. And debating and public speaking and theatre and drama helped me overcome that. So I revisited my poetry that I wrote when I couldn't speak. And I was like, hey, maybe I could give this a chance,
Nice.
And when I performed it, I was like, hey, wait, this kind of feels good.
So when was the first time you performed?
I think it must have been about 5 years ago.
5 years ago,
6
like publicly.
years ago.
This is
Yeah,
publicly.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. In poetry, of course. But I've performed in other arenas and debates and public speakings and stuff.
Right. No, I mean like for poetry, like what platform was it, or was it on your PoetX podcast? Was
No,
it
no.
the Halia type? No.
No. This was actually one of the older organizations that established it, and I think it was PCKL, if I'm not mistaken, Poetry Cafe KL. Shout out to them. They organized an event at Publica, I believe. Okay, fact checking with my fiance, and she says yes. So Publica, and Hanis was there, and to be honest, like it was a bit of an adjustment because the most previous time that I performed was as a debater, So a debater, you have a very combative stance. You're trying to prove yourself right. You're trying to win every argument. But poetry is not like that. You're more, slowly, like it's like a slow inception, if you may. You don't force an idea into someone's head. You don't shout it into someone's head and it sticks there. But you kind of have to work it in them. Explain to them just with words how this message is so important to you, So I think that takes a level of subtlety and emotions that you have to practice. You just really have to practice, I think.
So do you usually write, rewrite, relook at the lines, rework them?
That takes a long time. Actually, I just want to recount an experience I had with one of the national laureates, Muhammad Haji Saleh. And we did an interview with him once, PoetX.
Muhammad Haji Saleh wrote something that we learned in school. What's it called?
I think there were a few, right?
But like you have to learn in school.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay, yeah. Anyway, what he said was that when he writes poetry, he writes a poem and he ferments it. He keeps it hidden. He doesn't look at it for the next few years. And
years?
Yeah, next few years. So he keeps that poem unpublished, unreleased, and just like keeps it for a few years. And after a few years, he looks at it again, he revises it, and then he decides whether it's ready for release. If not, more fermentation is needed. More marination.
I mean, all good things like come fermented.
It takes time,
like
it
kimchi
takes time.
And
beer,
tua, and poetry.
Ah,
And poetry.
fairly so.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting.
Can we
What
ferment
about
a podcast
you, kid?
episode?
Like, do you have any like connection to poetry?
You're funny. You should ask.
I knew it.
Kid writes poetry.
I saw the little twinkle in your eyes.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'm guessing something to do with like primary school, and a stage is involved.
Oh,
I think this
bright
is in
lights.
bright lights.
Bright lights. No, it's usually dark and stormy night. Where you're in deep reflection. No, I'm just kidding, lah. But it was like, I think I was 13 or 14, cannot get girlfriend, very emo,
Oh my.
So like, how to channel the energy.
Very nice.
Are we calling it energy?
Energy,
okay.
So channel the energy into poetry, man.
I see.
Yeah.
It's quite
Become
Yuang, huh?
Shakespeare a bit, yeah.
You want to drop a
Not
few
bad,
lines?
not bad.
Huh?
You want to drop a few lines? Or?
Oh, no, man. It's been
International
it's been a long
debut.
time. International debut. It's been a long time, yeah. But I remember I mean, when I was younger, in all seriousness, because I did STPN, and like, of course, you have a choice to choose literature, and I was like, interesting. But my school didn't offer lah, so I just took a book and like I read, and the Shakespeare stuff is nice, but
Are you saying the education system let you down?
sorry?
Are you saying the education system let you down?
I think, to be fair, because if I had the proper encouragement, maybe it would be a bit different lah.
Yeah.
But money was the main thing, you know.
Yeah.
Especially I'm Chinese, the stereotype I play up to it, right? Just have to make money lah. My family's poor. Study accounting, yes. ACCA it is. Price of a proton, bro. Internationally recognized. Shout out to ACCA grads out there.
We understand your pain.
Yeah,
Price of a proton, lifetime numbers.
exactly, man. Like, it's the best ROI, bro.
Yeah.
30K qualification, and you work in the Big Four. It's okay, what?
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Study literature, become lecturer only, you know. I don't know lah, actually. Maybe you can become... Oh, actually, funny thing is that when I left the Big Four, they are apparently hiring a literature grad because they are very good at analysis, story analysis.
Wow.
So they think that, that might help with, business strategy and stuff like that. So I don't know how it pans out for them, but yeah, there you go. Study literature, guys. It's okay.
I guess in Malaysia you don't get... Do you get a lot of like full-time poets? People like A. Samad Syed.
To be honest, like I think a lot of the
Saleh.
poets that we have in KL, the way they survive is also a mixture of other things they do. For example, like some of them run events, some of them publish books, some of them perform for a fee. But quite a number of them are educators. Some of them are lecturers and teachers. But I think poetry is especially useful to younger people. I mean, not to say that older crowds shouldn't participate in it, but I feel like for young ones who are especially shy, who are afraid of finding the voice, I feel like poetry definitely helps that, because it helped me,
Help you find your voice. Help you express how you feel.
And if you want to help your speech, right? Any logical trainer would tell you, write your speech down first, right? Let's write it down.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what poetry is, right? Writing it down. And that's why it helped me so much with my starter as well, because it's kind of like trying to go through a script slowly,
And it gives you that, because when you
an appreciation for each word,
and you also slow down that speech pattern, right? So you don't try to say everything in your head at one go. Yeah.
That was the best advice I got from my father, actually, who was a lawyer. When I was stuttering a lot, he used to say, like, just slow it down. It's because you're thinking too fast. And I used to think that I'm thinking too slow. Right? Like, oh my God, like the words aren't arriving at my mouth because I'm thinking too slow. But actually, it's kind of the reverse. Like, my mouth can't catch up with what I'm thinking. I'm already thinking about the next thing. I'm already thinking about the next sentence. I'm already thinking about, what else I want to say. But my tongue is just,
lagging
spasming.
behind. Yeah.
So you need to slow down to move faster.
You need to slow down your mouth, actually. That's the muscle you need to control, because your brain can go as fast as it wants. Go ahead, But it's the rest of your body that needs to catch up.
It's a weird thing that I think episode 1, 2, we cover some of this also, right?
Oh, did we?
Something about... Yeah, I mean, I'm learning about... Right now, I'm quite interested in mind-body connection. So, by habit, you can carry your body in a certain way. And to stop, say, for bad posture. You want to get out of bad posture. So, one way is to actually know which muscle you're not using. And when you're in, say, a sitting position, ask that muscle to, wake up.
Speak to it.
Speak to it. Literally, like viewers at home, and even us right now, like, move your left butt cheek without moving your thighs, without moving the kneecap up. Just move your left butt cheek, only the left.
Oh man, that's
and
hard.
then now you move the right.
Okay.
See, your brain is trying to tell it to move, but it just wouldn't, right? Then it tried to compensate by using the quads to move the butt. It's weird. It's very weird. It's weird that we're not educated when we're younger about this. Like, PE is just, here's a ball, go play. Then the teacher can chill a bit. You know.
They should teach this to everyone. Just like it will help with twerking
Yeah. And poetry also.
and poetry. Yeah,
And
expressing
poetry.
yourself.
Yeah. But was there any instance where, you're into poetry and people actually tell you like, this is not a manly thing to do?
Oh, all the time, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the time. Because generally, like, men are asked to feel, to not show their emotions generally.
be hard.
Right? Yeah, to be hard and stuff like that.
Like stone.
And poetry is kind of like bearing your very emotions, because almost no one, like, I mean, besides those tribute poems or besides, reading other people's poems, almost all of a poem, or all of a person's performance poetry are their own. So like you actually craft those pieces yourself and you actually perform it yourself. No one's going to look up there and say, oh, you're covering someone else, is it? No, I'm not covering anyone else's poem. It's oftentimes your own. So to me, I feel like that's a lot deeper in connection as well, because it's confirmed that person's thoughts are.
But this whole male doing this poetry thing, if we take a step back, actually a lot of poetry that we learn are all written by males. Isn't it? Like, Shakespeare, and locally Azam Rais. You just mentioned Haji
That is
Saleh.
true.
People like Roald Dahl.
Usman Awang.
I don't know much about poetry, but that
I mean, there are famous female poets in history, but I do kind of agree with you. I feel like perhaps also during that time, society was more comfortable with a male taking the lead in a lot of things. For example, Shakespeare was famously known to use men to dress in the women roles. So obviously you can see the separation in what a woman can do at that point of time and what a man can do. So their rise to dominance, their rise to glory is kind of partly explained by that, Not to say that women were less artistic or poetic in any way. Because I feel like in the current Malaysian scene, the ones that are paving the way, the ones that are like the top poets, among the top poets are mostly female. Yeah, that's the truth.
I see. And what was it like at your competition last year? So that would have been like a representation of what's going on in Philippines, Indonesia, and Singapore.
Yeah.
How's that like?
Besides, actually, second and third place were both females. One was Vanessa from Singapore, and another was Kim Chi Lai from Malaysia. Shout out to them.
Cool.
And I think that generally psychologists have also confirmed this, that women are more comfortable expressing themselves.
Yeah.
That's why poetry is such an important and popular avenue for them. Because, I mean, that's really where they can express themselves.
Yeah.
No one shuts them down, and it's a place where their voices are appreciated.
And the way dudes communicate is a bit different, right? That's why
it's like,
dudes are more jokes.
Yeah.
That's why most of them become comedian lah, I suppose.
Like, two guys can get real close, but never skim the surface about what they really feel.
Correct.
Yeah, but we can still say we're best buds, we're best friends.
I'm in like relationships like that.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's
Yeah.
like, oh, you got sister? you're like, this person passed away already. Like, oh yeah. Okay.
But like, you would put your life on the line for this kind of people who
like,
you didn't know had.
I have a ton of close friends who I don't know the real name. That's the thing. We don't go deeper. I'm like, what is their full name? No.
And as a male in like the poetry scene industry, as a writer as well, do you find that you have less things to write about as a male? This is like the whole thing about how the white male is
too dominant. Like
so
they have no
dominant
right to. There's no right to voice their complaint. Yeah.
And like, why should I listen to you, somebody who is privileged?
White privilege.
In the local sense, like, you are Malay Muslim. So does that give you like a disadvantage?
I think that's the thing. I mean, the trend of poetry, as how you mentioned, tends to favor victimization. Right? We like to hear the victim stories.
Well, I think that's prevalent today everywhere. Yeah. Even in politics. Like, it's, I think we talked about this with Afiq as well. No, wait. It was Piachai. There was a term called victimization Olympic.
Hmm.
Let's see who is a worse victim.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Who is more oppressed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I mean, the thing is, oppression, sadness, being a victim of something, being a victim of abuse or any form of discrimination in any way, that's a powerful motivator for you to write poetry. But that's not the only powerful motivator out there. You know? Pain is one, yes. But there's also fear. There's also love. There's also strength. There's also hope. There's also prayers. There's also religion. There's also patience. There's everything involved with society that there's so many things that have not yet been talked about. Which is why I feel like it's such a shame that everyone who has different lived-in experiences doesn't just pick up a pen and tell me your story. Of course, it'd be better if your story is poetic, because then that, listen lah more. But your story doesn't mean any less than mine. It's just that I probably maybe performed it better. So every story is important. It's not just, I get it that, sometimes people say that, like, oh, if you hear someone who's been abused, the poetry is so poignant, it's so deep, it's so, you can feel the pain and anguish that's showing through, yes. But you could say the same about any other poet expressing any other thing. All that differentiates them is, I think, their performance skill. Because
at the end of the day, poetry is not just writing, right? Yeah. At the same time, it is also a performance.
Yeah.
And I guess at the same time, there is like, okay. So let's take a step back and go to this age-old like thing, right? What is poetry and what is spoken word? Is it the same thing?
Wait. Before we move on, I wanted to add something. Have you guys watched Velvet Buzzsaw?
Oh, no. Is it good?
Should I spoil it for everybody?
Give us a teaser.
So it's a horror, but it's not.
It's a horror?
Yeah, but you shouldn't take it as a horror. I think it's a critique of art. And what I really got out of it is that I think, right, at the end of the day, when you do poetry, I think poetry is an art form, right? And with any art form, you are really finding ways to express yourself within that art form. And whether it becomes popular or not depends on whether people connect with your life, your pain. I think that's how pop culture should be looked at, instead of like we find a formula and then we stick to it.
Yeah.
This is what the Korean do, right? Yeah. So band A and band B not a lot different because they have a certain formula. They have a certain way of like tapping into the mainstream conscious. But to be a true artist, so to speak. Yeah. So I was thinking about that as you guys are talking about it, and I wonder if you look at it that way as well.
Yeah, actually, in my opinion, like there are two schools of thought about how you should perform poetry. Some of them feel like, whatever poetry you have, you should not have any restrictions. What
kind
your
of
poetry is personal.
Okay.
For example, like
personal to everybody,
to yourself.
Okay.
Like, you shouldn't censor, you shouldn't restrict, you shouldn't limit a poet in any way. A poet should be given freedom to speak anything or any subject and any way that he wants. Another school of thought believes that you should temper your material to suit the audience.
I see.
Yeah.
I think that's like in every art form, isn't it?
True.
Right. Music also is the same.
Yeah. But I think with music and with everything else, you have something else to hide behind. But with poetry, it's just, these are my thoughts, accept or don't accept. And I think it's really up to the poet, to the performer, to present things in a way that is most understandable. Most receivable. That's a problem. I feel like a lot of people, they are too engrossed in their own pieces, and not customer centric or audience focused enough. When I perform to an audience, I'd like to know that they appreciate what I'm trying to say, and that what I'm saying is suitable for that particular venue and environment. Some people feel like art is art, poetry is the rawest form of art. Let it be raw.
Right.
So
you are on the school that you should slightly temper it?
I'm on the school that that spoken word poetry is a performance before anything else.
So moderate it a little bit.
Moderate
Make sure the
it.
guys understand what you're trying
Because
to say.
the point of poetry is to make someone feel something, to give an impact to someone. And if your poetry is good enough, is suitable enough for 100 people instead of one person, then why not? Why not impact 100 lives? Why just, but that requires some tempering. That requires some, when I say tempering, it doesn't really mean you have to change the whole soul of the poem.
Yeah.
But there are certain things that you can leave out. There are certain things that you can say in a different way. That does not, that lands nicely on ears, but still sends your message. And that complexity, that's what poetry is, right?
Yes, yes.
Oh, I would disagree. I would think that that's the difference between the good and the great. Right? Because you can feel like, very into your own poetry, but you're stuck in your head.
Yeah.
Right? That's what you mean, right?
Yeah, I'd
no
like
one
people to understand it,
Yeah.
That's why, for me, it takes a long time for me to write a poem, because the poetry, the rhymes, the artistic expression will come. But more importantly is finding what message I want to send. Because that's what I'll build my poem around. That's what I'll build all the rhymes, everything around this one central message. Because at the end of the day, I cannot stand that my poem does not have a message. I need to tell someone something. That's why I write poetry.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the purists will disagree. No.
Yeah.
People must strive to understand.
Poetry
this
is nothing. Art is nothing.
Yeah.
It should just be nothing kind of thing. And
I don't know. I think some people might feel that, for poetry should be like comedy. Like you don't really think in a stand-up comedy setting, right? As an audience, you sit down there, the fella talk shit, and then you listen, and then it's either ha 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 or just like, There's no in between. There's like, it's like you don't really think when you're in a comedy show. You surrender your thinking to the stand-up comedian. And I think like when you're in a poetry show, like, would you agree that something should be similar as well?
Yeah.
Like the listener should have surrendered to the performance. Yeah.
But that's not easy.
Yeah.
The poet really has to capture the attention of the audience. And
maybe you need to build like social credit, build rapport first. So after you're more popular, then you can throw some really weird pieces, maybe.
Maybe.
Would you want to try that one day?
Just throw you guys off, right?
Yeah,
Because at the end of the day, like, it also comes with like influence, right? The more influence you have, the more that you can push. Just like you're talking about this Netflix show, right? Whatever that art form is that you can push.
Yeah.
And because you have a following, it becomes, acceptable.
Yeah, you can have that freedom of a little bit more expression. People like it, okay, tweak it a little bit more, maybe.
Yeah. I feel like the best performers, that's what they do. They're constantly tweaking their sets. They're constantly tweaking their performance to allow them experimentation, but also at the same time appeal to the greater audience. I think that's the best combination, because as a creative, you cannot be restricted either. You cannot be told you can only perform this poem every time.
Yeah.
Every time perform this poem. You need to have some room for creativity, but also a room to understand that people paid here to sit down and watch you. So give them something that they can take away.
So same but different, but somehow still same.
Yeah.
When I go for poetry events, I mean, we were just at your event, Ruminate, that we will talk about in a little bit.
26th March 2019.
Nice. It was good. We had fun. I tend to find that when I listen to poetry, I listen. I don't watch. Like my eyes go somewhere and I'm like fixed on like a chair in the bar and I'm just listening, and it's
Betul.
I don't necessarily have to look at the poet. And then even like last week at your event, you had a dancer.
Yeah.
And I felt that when I was looking at him, I wasn't paying attention. I was like losing attention or losing focus on the poem itself.
Right.
So that I would like look away. And I find that was quite interesting. Because at the end of the day, then it was still just an audio thing for me. It wasn't like a visual thing.
I do agree though, to some extent. Because when I see something else, then I get distracted. I mean, maybe I'm just slow also lah. Because
Could be, yeah.
Some people like when they watch. It's just some people that watch MTV and then like the singer will be singing, and then they'll be like, oh, the words. And I'll be like, oh, fuck. How do you catch it at the first go? You know what I mean? Like, is your language mastery so strong? Because I'm like distracted by boobs, like dancers. Yeah, you know, J-Lo's butt. But yeah, I think I agree.
I think like I've been to a lot of poetry shows.
Yeah.
And oftentimes the setup is without a dancer. You know, and what I find lacking is like is taking it a step further. You know? I feel like poets are sometimes they're a bit stuck to the mic. You know? And that's because they're focusing 100% on their voice and how they present the poem and feeling it, right? But that kind of leaves a gap in an audience's intake of art. Because you just generally you're just listening to it. Like, it's awesome that you're listening to the poetry, but I also wanted to stimulate their visuals, you know? And if the dancer wasn't there, I think visually it would look a lot less impressive, you know? But I understand what you're trying to say, because sometimes, you know, you want to just focus on the poems, so that's why you should listen to PoetX's Ruminate recordings, published soon.
And you should always listen to podcasts, people.
Yeah. Ruminate episodes dropping soon.
Yeah, send us your link, man. We'll definitely plug it in.
Give you a plug,
Yeah.
But I appreciate that, man. Thanks for the feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the music though. Like,
I mean, I'm not saying it's bad that he was there dancing.
Yeah.
Like, I went up to him and told him like, "Fine, good job at it." Because like it's my first time seeing a dancer and poetry together.
Yeah.
On top of that, like the dance that he was doing is like, it was nice. It was nice, especially with that lights, those blue and red lights.
Yeah.
Quite like mystical at some points, like depending on the piece.
dude, I was just like, dude, he's so fit, man. Jesus. Look at him. How he it's like just tight, you know, he's moving. Yeah, but I thought the music was like nice also. There's
The
a
guitar.
guitarist as well. Yeah. And I thought to myself like, maybe this is how rap started, because it's quite close, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Huh? Have you ever thought about
Rapping?
Yeah.
I know a poet who has. But no, I haven't thought of rapping. Actually, quite a few poets, they get their inspiration from rappers. But I feel like I was more of an R&B guy growing up.
Ooh.
You know, so...
Usher a bit,
so yeah, those kind of things. So it's a bit more soulful, it's a bit slower, it's a bit more melodious. It's not, I mean, even though it rhymes, it's not like strict rhyme schemes, you know? Yeah.
But Volume 3, Volume 4 is going to be more pushing the boundaries with music and dances.
Featuring Kid Theo as performer, debuting his
MC.
MC
Hammer.
You do, I do, bro. Parachute pants. The blings.
Gotta start writing some poetry. So as a kid, I
wrote poetries.
Yeah, I used to write.
It comes naturally, right?
Right.
We just didn't take up on it, right?
It does come naturally. So at home, like my mom is an English teacher and she was like into poetry. I feel like if she was properly trained for poetry, she could have made it big. Like she would like, you know, enter all these amateur competitions in the newspaper.
She had a platform, you know.
And like, you know, at school, blah, blah. She would write poetry for like poetry recital competition and shit like that. So like there was some influence.
Yeah, definitely, bro.
And like I have so many like cards, for example, birthday cards that I write to my dad, and like it's those simple poems, you know. It's those "You are cool, you send me to school, so that I'm not a fool." And like it's actually around us a lot. I feel that
it is.
We just don't like tap into it.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like, only after I found I got over my stutter, when I went back to it, it was like, wow, you know?
Not bad, huh? Yeah. Like, you look at yourself.
You imagine that feeling, you've kind of stored your poems away for so long, and you're like, man, I'm never going to get to read this, kind of thing like that, you know? And then finally, when you do find your voice, you're like, hey, what is this book that I stumbled on? And you open it, it's like, You know, old Azam.
Old Azam.
It's a heartbroken Azam.
It's like
You know,
time
it's
capsule.
lonely Azam in asrama. Yeah.
That's cool, right?
Bro, all this kind, and you're like literally retracing back, and you're like, wow, you know, this is like, that's like my diary in a way, you know?
That was how you feel at that point of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sure if you guys go back and look back at your poems, like, bro, it's a nostalgic trip, bro.
It is, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I wish
definitely, for sure.
Do you still have them?
Yeah,
Hey, they can
plenty,
recite,
plenty.
Yeah, bro. Go on that
Plenty.
trip, man.
I just did the whole cool school tool fool thing.
Yeah. Oh,
I
wow.
think do it on stage, man.
That was real. That wasn't just example, is it?
But it was simple stuff like that. Just as like a kid,
Yeah.
poetry
Yeah.
means things must rhyme.
Correct.
And then,
Betul.
only later, like, I realized that, actually,
Doesn't have to
like,
rhyme.
doesn't have to rhyme. It's
Yeah.
just me putting words in different
Yeah.
ways.
But rhyming sounds more fun. Go to school, fool.
Mm-hmm.
There's a sense of innocence there also. Simple sentence structure.
Right.
Thanking my dad.
Forwards.
Yeah.
So I guess that's the simplistic approach. But today, I'm sure the way you write a poem is a lot more complex than that.
I hope so.
If like, I'm sure people have asked you this, and I wonder if you have like a concise answer. What's the process of writing a piece? Like from start to finish, does it start with, an idea of how you want it to sound, or the message, or does it start with the idea that you have to build upon?
Or do you start in the middle, just like how you feel, then try to dress it up front and back?
I mean, I think I can only speak for myself because I think a lot of different people write differently about different things and everything.
For sure, yeah.
I write based on messages.
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 Okay.
I like to send messages. That's why oftentimes in my poems there are like little plot twists here and there, just to kind of really nail the message in, maybe through irony, maybe through sarcasm, maybe through different like literary tools. You can kind of make it a lot more poignant, that message. But I feel like that's where I start off all the time. I start off with a message, what I want to say. Then I think of what's a better way of saying this? How else can I describe this situation? But not in a normal way, I mean, you could always say it's like yellow like a sunflower. But why not say like, I don't know, yellow like cashew socks or something like that, There are different ways of describing things.
In my case, yellow like my skin color.
Oh, thank God I didn't go for that example. Hey, my fiancé half Chinese,
So actually you can make
Half
some
yellow.
Yeah.
They're yellow brownish.
So that gives you some card, right, to use.
Yeah,
the
but
joke.
I know some people who...
Right, it's okay. I'm not racist. My fiance Chinese.
Hey, bro. I whip it out every time, bro.
Whip it out.
But some people, they really just write like from that, just pure expression,
Yeah.
Like they can write a
Unfiltered.
poem like 5 minutes before or 10 minutes before they go on stage, and that's the kind of feeling they want to get. They want to get that feeling of like,
The thrill.
yeah, that thrill, Sometimes
Hi, bro.
I've seen poets like complete their pieces on stage and then
Living
perform
life
it.
on the edge, man.
For me, it's like that's cool if you can pull it off.
Yes.
Because again, don't forget that people paid to watch you.
Yeah.
And you have to maintain that quality.
Yeah.
That's
for
okay.
sure.
10% of the time, it works every time.
10% of the time it works every time. Yeah.
I actually know a guy. I don't really know him lah. But I met a guy once. He has a book lah, and everywhere he goes, he'll just start writing down. Which I thought like, that book is like his lens to the world, through his poetry.
And years later, he would find that book in a dusty drawer somewhere.
Books.
In a dusty drawer somewhere. Hey, this is like old kid's friend.
Yeah.
But that's so true. Like sometimes you need to connect different concepts together, Like as I was saying, like how do you describe something in a different way? For example, Eminem in one of his songs, he was talking about, I think it was one of his rebuttals or criticisms about mumble rap, right? Because he's a true rapper, he's one of the greats, Eminem, and what happened was that he wanted to criticize mumble rap, but instead of just going out and saying, "Oh, I can't hear your words," he said that rap has a disease in the tongue.
Hmm.
Rap has a disease of the mouth. And then he goes on to describe the different diseases in the human body related to the mouth and this and that. And it all rhymes.
Right.
But actually what he's trying to say is that because of the disease, that's why the mumble comes out. You know, that's why you guys suck, because rap is sick. You know? And that was like, wow. But you have to go into that. You have to research into what are mouth diseases, you know?
Right.
It's
But
like
he's
yeah.
super hardworking, right? the dude?
He is. He's like a dictionary.
Yeah. Apparently he reads a dictionary
He
to
does,
find
yeah.
the right words to use and all that. Like,
That's commitment to your art, you know?
yeah. But it's also funny because he's the guy who said like nobody listens to techno. And then boom.
And then boom.
EDM.
Kid does.
Eminem said nobody listens to techno.
Yeah, there was one song. Right?
Yeah, Moby.
Yeah. Yeah, it was Moby. Yeah.
Yeah.
And now nobody listens to mumble rap. Oh no, it's just saying mumble rap's bad.
Yeah.
But the designer guy though, you know that Panda song? Right. But I actually read the lyrics, I was like, what? That's it.
That's the other thing, you know. I really like, for example, okay, see, if you compare hip hop and R&B, right? Hip hop, sometimes the chorus is about one thing, then a featured rapper comes and he raps about something totally different, about his cars, about his money, about his jewelry. I'm like, bro, this girl going through heartbreak, bro. You know, the chorus is about that, and suddenly you're like, oh, I flash money, I got bitches and hoes, and I'm like, how is this relevant, you know? But you won't see the same thing in an R&B song. You know, R&B's often, almost all the time, is on point. We're talking about love, yeah, let's talk about love. We're talking about heartbreak, we talk about heartbreak. We talk about like, oh, you know, how you betrayed me and shit, yeah, let's talk about that. But it's never suddenly cars, money, bitches, like, where did this, like, you know? So I've always been taught to,
Just to play the devil's advocate.
Yeah.
Maybe they are trying to do that whole like the meta narrative, you know. Like here's the girl going through a heartbreak and the dude just care about money and
yeah,
bitches.
but
Like
you gotta
dude,
understand,
you
like,
gotta wake up, man. This is the message of the
But I guess like you find that a lot like in rap, right? The
Yeah.
materialism
yeah.
and the like, you know, spending power kind of thing. R&B's main focus is, I guess, love.
Is it love?
Isn't it love though?
Actually, I don't know. I don't like R&B.
I mean, there's a lot. There's like friendship, there's betrayals, there's like,
Friendship.
Like it's still love. It's all about like that love emotion,
there's also hate, there's also cheating, there's also infidelity,
which
there's
is
also
the
marriages.
lack of love.
Yeah,
Right?
technically, yes.
Like,
Look
like
at you.
To
Look at
compare,
you.
I mean, like, you know, if R&B is love, then rap is like this is generalizing lah, but rap is like ego.
I don't know though. I mean, like the guys who sing romance, right, will look at R&B, it's like, that's fake love. You know, people like Rod Stewart. He'd be like, "Pfft, Tony Braxton, pfft, fuck this boy singing about. Who is this Usher guy? Like, is he bringing me to my table or what? You know? But it's weird that every art form will have, like, there's always a counter movement,
Yeah,
and you get like
yeah.
so many different things, and it's great, isn't it? Because there's
is.
so many different people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you feed different.
And the thing about
needs.
art is like it's so subjective, right?
Yeah,
I mean, some people like the designer song, some people don't.
yeah.
You know, some people need to hear what the mumble rappers are saying, some people don't. Some people like the beats, the repetitive beats, some people don't, you know?
And then one day you're like up there, next
And
day
next day you're like, what are you talking about?
who is this guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But because art is so subjective, you can always make a comeback. You know? You can always reinvent yourself and say, this is a new me. If you dig it, you dig it, you know? Like Lady Gaga, how she's reinvented herself.
What's the story now?
I mean,
I don't follow.
okay, like,
Yeah.
what did you first think about when Lady Gaga first hit the scene?
She's
She
crazy.
was crazy, controversial, provocative, you know, like trailblazer and a lot of
Yeah.
things.
I really like it though.
Yeah, but her reinvented image is totally different.
Is it?
She's no longer wearing the crazy dresses.
crazy
Yeah.
She's not
dresses.
wearing, yeah.
Yeah.
She's no longer trying to make a statement about like religion or about her values or about any other things. You know, it's a lot more hopeful. It's a lot more positive. And then she sings with Bradley Cooper, and
Oh.
it's a lot more enlightening. So
Oh, the new movie, is it?
yeah,
A Star
I
is
didn't watch
Born.
it.
Yeah.
Star is Born.
yeah, it's very hopeful and enlightening and stuff.
But
So,
also, yeah, I think like to her story, she has it's a condition, I can't remember the name, but it's basically inflammation on your body for no reason.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
that changed her. But sorry, you were saying?
yeah, what I'm saying is, macam, because it's so subjective, right? Like people can associate you with one form of art, but next album you could always reinvent yourself.
Yeah.
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 That's the cool thing about an artist, that you can always reinvent yourself. You can always go a different direction, just as long as you do it well.
Yeah, and then you can go back also.
Yeah.
Snoop Dogg became Snoop Lion, then he became Snoop Dogg again, isn't it?
Oh.
Yeah, it's really funny, bro.
The branding manager, like, bro, don't please, we printed so many t-shirts.
And he'd be like,
enough of this.
I'm gonna be a dog.
You were a dog. We just changed everything.
His lion poster I have to take down. But what's really funny is that so I subscribe to I follow Mike Tyson.
Oh.
I don't really watch boxing, but growing up, of course, my dad loves them lah. And when I watch the old Iron Mike, he just demolished people. It's crazy,
So crazy,
man.
bro.
For a guy that big and the amount, like the way he move, I'm just like, you sure didn't fast forward this video.
It's
Like
so
this is
scary,
normal
man.
lah. Yeah. And now he's like a bit chubby. He has his own weed farm, resort thing, and he has a podcast called Hot Boxing.
Which is, I think, the best fucking name
Yes.
ever. It's the best name ever.
Yeah, and they get stoned.
They hotbox.
They hotbox and they do a podcast.
Boxing.
Yeah.
Then it's smart. It's genius.
Yeah.
That is
And
crazy.
yeah, when you say about reinventing, I think like he's that guy who's that boxer, that rapist, that man who's spinning out of control, and now he's just chill trying to sell people weed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good thing weeds around, huh?
It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
Times are changing. I always feel like it's a weird time we live in because growing up as well, of course, drugs are bad. Right? All drugs.
All drugs?
All drugs. All drugs are bad. But of course, paracetamol is not a drug lah. Ibuprofen no.
No.
Caffeine no. But other than this, all drugs are bad.
Mhm.
Right? And now it's like when you see other country legalizing, and in our own country we are talking about it as well. It's like a weird time that we live in. It's an exciting time.
It is exciting, yeah.
Yeah.
So let's tie it up with poetry here a little bit. Do you find any I feel it's a good avenue to, write about stuff that's not just about feelings and emotion, but also to impact, right? So
Yeah.
you
impact
write
change.
a poem as a sign of protest. Does that happen a lot here in
It
Malaysia?
does, definitely a lot. Like, just recently, I don't know if you heard Raja Rao's poem
Yeah.
from Ruminate that day.
He had 10, 20 poems.
He performed, one of them was called Hormat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
That was a really good one, no?
Yeah.
Yeah, shout out to Raja Rao,
really good.
Daddy
really
Dalam.
Hmm.
It was about him. He was telling the story about how he got wrongfully arrested by the cops
Yeah.
in Malaysia, and he was thrown into the back of a police car, and he was told how he should be respectful when he was, falsely arrested, and he just felt like hormat was a thing that he had great value for, but when it was said by his false captor, an aggressor and an antagonist in the state, it made him lose. I mean, hormat took a whole different meaning for him, and that's why I feel like we need more of that now. And you can't possibly say that, we don't have enough material, because we have a lot of material. There's a lot. You don't have to be particularly abused or victimized or anything like that. Like, you could, because everyone has lived in experiences that touches them in one way or another.
And I find that there are, I find less of these kind of external affecting poems, if that makes sense. Like stuff to raise people's awareness. There is definitely a lot of poetry on, the change in government and ridiculing the previous government, about how it's good times now. But I feel most of these poems are, I don't know, they don't go into it so deep. Like, for example, Raja Rao's poem, he talks about a specific event that he had, and he relates it to this whole Malaysia Baru as well. Then, the impact is there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just find that.
But that's the thing. That's the beauty of poetry, right? Like, I mean, we say would you not say that a lot of your influence, a lot of what you know about the world is through movies or series?
Definitely.
But it's not from one movie, is it? it's not from any one movie, is it? It's a built collective information from all the movies you watch, all this. Now you think, okay, America must be like that, right? So similarly, collect some poems. Listen to not just one poem, but if you collect a few, then you get a little landscape of what the country's like. That's what I learned the most from the Philippine poets, because all of them said something different about the current government,
but it's kind of the same.
Yeah, and you kind of get a feel, because they're all talking from different angles. You know, like how Game of Thrones talks from different angles, but they're talking about the same thing.
Yeah,
that's what builds the whole story, and you're like, wow, I see a clearer view now because I'm not just listening from one source. Yeah, it's like a collective, lived-in experience. Everyone shares, That's why I feel like we need more.
Definitely. Is the scene growing here?
The scene is growing here. Yeah.
Because I'm quite surprised the first time I went to see you in Bangsa, and that little hall was packed.
Yeah.
So I had to stand behind.
Yeah.
Yeah. You were so small in front of the stage. But when did it all... Was there a point that you can tell us like the history of the poetry scene in Malaysia? How it took off? And
to be honest, I'm just gonna be clear and say that I don't think I'm qualified to give you a full chronology of how the poetry scene grew. But I feel like one of the biggest influences were Poetry Cafe KL. They were the ones that still had headed by Elaine Foster, and this collective was really very active, and they were one of the reasons why I decided to start my own organization called PoetX. Check us out at PoetX Podcast. And basically, there were other organizations like there were If Walls Could Talk, there were Poets Passport, there is now Jalan Dalam, there is Jacket, there is Oral Fixation.
Oral Fixation.
Yeah. So now it's growing, I mean, before this it wasn't so. It was kind of like, still stuck in its but
grassroots.
But that's why poets also need to take a more active role in not just being a poet. You can't just be a poet full stop. Be a poet and something else. Poet and collaborator in event organizing, in publishing, making zines, and there are so many other different ways that you can push your art form. I feel like it's in today's world, it doesn't do you any good to just be a poet. Just write and hope for open mic stages. That doesn't help.
So right now yourself, you are organizing Ruminate, which is a platform, and PoetX is a podcast where people can come talk about poetry, their poetry, and
publish their poetry online.
Right. And then that's how you're moving the story forward, so to speak. Now, sorry, you want to say something?
I was just going to say that I was going to ask you, like you started 5 years ago, right? And I'm sure back then, having a platform is the challenge.
Back then, there was...
Not just like as an organizer, but as a poet who wants to like, hey, listen to me. Yeah. You probably only had If Walls Could Talk and Poetry Cafe.
Yeah. I'm not sure whether If Walls Could Talk was around when I first started. But
so how has that changed now? Now, like today, you yourself now have created 2 platforms for people, PoetX and Ruminate. How has that changed it for you as well as for like somebody who wants to come into the scene?
For me, I'm pretty particular about presentation, about performance. So sometimes when I go to shows where I feel like I perform and I felt like, oh man, I wish the lighting was a bit brighter. I wish the audio was a bit better. I wish the stage was a bit bigger. I wish this, I wish that, and I wish I had a bit more time. So I decided, why don't I just have my own event? I think you can only spark the flame by adding more firewood. You gotta stoke the flame. You gotta keep it going. And there were a lot of shows that kept this going when poetry was, a bit slow. But Poets Passport and PCKL, they went through the tough times when there was not as much interest in it. There was not as much support for it. But now it's kind of picking up a bit, right? A lot more people are aware of spoken word. It's come up on like popular late night shows, spoken word, you always hear this thing. And it comes out in funny movies and funny scenes, spoken word, emotions, feelings. Yeah, those kind of things. Yeah. Everybody knows that, okay? So it goes with the culture. You gotta keep at it,
Sorry, I'm a bit lost. What's this spoken word thing?
Oh. Hollywood likes to make fun of spoken word.
Okay.
Because it's like, they like to exaggerate the poet's emotions, I think this was in 21 Jump Street, something like that. Yeah.
A lot of movies, I feel.
Yeah.
Like spoken word is the outlet for that emotional individual.
For the angry feminist kind of thing, There's that stereotype. But actually, it's not always angry and it's not always females.
Now, as far as I understand, you had a background in commerce.
Yes.
And as far as I remember, you mentioned before you worked in one of the big fours, wasn't it?
Yes, I did.
How did you went from that to this? Like, walk us through the transition a little bit.
So, like, when I was studying, when I was in school and everything like that, my parents always said, focus on your studies, focus on your studies. But I was always attracted to performing, debates and public speakings and dramas. And I did that a lot in college and university. And doing that more and more, I found whenever I wanted to escape from my studies, I'd do those things. I'd perform, I'd, get myself involved in a show, those kind of things,
Damn, I just play video games. My Dota, my Counter-Strike.
I guess some people lead more interesting lives.
Yeah, no, man. I do nothing now, man. I mean, I can't go and play with those, you see those people play Counter-Strike. It's like you turn a corner and your head does into, that's it. Yeah, crazy, man. I'm not that. Just play for fun. I wish I did poetry, then maybe I could have been part of this, But yeah, please.
Yeah, but what was I saying?
Yeah, so this is how you escape.
Yeah.
Yeah, studying.
So the best parts I feel of my school and everything else was the performing parts. Was the parts when I was on stage, in any oratory competition. And I think in university, everything like that, it became a lot more obvious. And when I was working with one of the big four, those long auditing hours, I would just be looking forward to when's my next performance. When's my next performance, And when it finally came, it was like, God,
Yeah, any auditing poetry?
No. Poets, auditors don't have time for that.
Yeah. I imagine during those long hours until 3 a.m.
It's just numbers, bro.
That would make some cool poetry.
All the auditors can relate, bro.
All the auditors can relate, for sure.
Yeah.
A poet feels lonely, around numbers, because all you're looking at is numbers.
There's no words.
Where the words at, bro?
God, non-correct aside, bro.
For the category, thanks. So poetic.
Our favorite
I
word
live off this.
Our favorite word is non-compliance.
My favorite program is Excel.
Because I excel.
I excel.
You should just call it work.
Work.
Oh.
I don't know, man. Accounting is funny, man. It's a funny job.
It's a job that will never go away.
Yeah.
It's a job that will never go away.
It's also the long hours really make me feel very anxious. Like if I sit down for too long, I get jittery. And that's how I know I don't belong there, I like to talk. That's why I guess. Yeah. But how did you make the transition though? From did you go one night, it's fuck it.
That job to
Yeah, I'm gonna...
Well, I never pursued poetry as a job. I was never okay, you know what, I'm going to do poetry for my income and it's going to support me and stuff like that because actually the whole reason I started PoetX is because I knew that the market did not have enough money in it. There was not enough poets being paid, there was not enough sponsors, there was not enough companies and stuff. So it would have been foolish for me to think that, oh my God, I'm going to jump into this market which I specifically knew. Yeah. Specifically knew and was trying to solve that problem. So I actually switched that to another business. It wasn't like I left my accounting job for poetry, although that's probably the more popular story. But I left my accounting job to start a business. And parts of the business I'm still carrying on till now.
Kaiju Creative, was it?
Yeah.
Which allowed you to have that time to devote for poetry.
Yeah. Right now I'm running with my partners. I'm running Kaiju Creatives, which is a digital marketing and online branding company. And we cover a lot of things that creatives need, that we look for creatives for. We're kind of like creative consultants in a way. Yeah. So that kind of gives me an outlet for creativity. At the same time, I get to continue poetry. So I felt like that was, probably the best thing I could hope for between the two. And we're slowly working on it and it's getting better.
That's one way to do it.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Don't
But,
put
you
all your
know,
eggs in one basket, you know?
It's always a big switch, you know. There are a lot of people who switch from corporate to poetry.
But today as well, like, do you find that poetry is becoming more and more like a job?
I feel like poetry could
In
be
the
a
sense
side
of
income.
income.
Side income. But I don't think that it can sustain one as a main income.
So when you go, like, perform at this event, that event, you expect to be paid.
Yes.
Just like any other musician, speaker would.
Is
Is it always a fair game? Or do you find yourself being the guy who, like, they just give you
Yeah, and they tell you
money
like,
to
hey,
makan?
Azam, do it for exposure lah.
I think
Or
I
like,
felt
bro, poem je, bro. Like,
Yeah,
3
few
minutes
lines
ni,
je.
like,
Why
do
you want
get that?
3,000?
But essentially, you could say the same thing about any art form, right? Bro,
True,
satu
but
lagu
like-
bro, nyanyi lah kejap. You know,
yeah.
bro, satu painting ke calik lah sikit paint tu.
Yeah.
Canvas dah ada, calik je sikit. Tu aku jual. You know, you could say the same thing, right? But that's the thing lah. I think that's what differentiates the good poets from the great poets. I feel like the craft and time that you put into it and how seriously you take your art. Because if you are a serious poet, you wouldn't sell yourself cheap. That is not to say that, every poet needs to get paid, you know, or else I'm just a cheap hoe. No. It doesn't mean that. What it means is that there are other things that you can get besides money. You know, you can get further jobs from it. You can get exposure, of course. You can get your portfolio filled up. You can get, like, for example, I do take jobs that don't pay because of the novelty of it. For example, I've never performed at that particular venue. I've never performed for this particular person. I've never performed in front of this particular audience. I've never performed at this particular state or something like that. So it's like you spread your wings with that. But if you're gonna ask for payment for every show, it might be maybe the market's not ready for it yet. Because if, say, a musician wants to perform at any bar, right? The bar already has it in their heads that I need to pay this guy.
Yeah.
But they don't have it in their heads that and they need to pay a poet yet.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So that's the difference that we need to
that's-
make.
yeah.
Exactly.
But that also doesn't happen unless we poets put a price on our art. We put a value on it first before we can put a price on it. But you can only put value on something if you've done work on it, if you actually added value to it, right?
And people actually want it as
If
well.
there's something that people can
Yeah.
take away from it.
Yeah.
That's why it's very important for us to keep improving our craft, you know? To keep talking about things that are relevant that people can learn from. That if it's a sad poem, teach them also how to recover from sadness. You know? If it's a poem about your struggle, tell them about how you solved it.
Yeah.
Because that's something that you can take away from it, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like
It's
don't you
not just a story, right?
Yeah. It's not just a story. It's a
Can be
lesson.
like a lesson.
Yeah.
I don't know how much you agree with this, but I read Marvel, they have the cinematic universe, they have like a fixed story structure that works so well because we tell stories all the time, right? And we have a certain way of telling a story. So if I tell you a story where you are at the top and then you fall to the very bottom, that's a tragedy. That's just depressing, right? Nobody really like to watch it lah, but some people make it very artsy-fartsy, then it's like, whoa, a hit, like, oh, I really feel the emotion. But that's very hard to pull off. But what people like to hear is like a 3-step thing, right? You start at the top, you fall to the bottom, and then redemption.
Yeah.
Right? Got tension, got like...
Yeah.
It's like, basically Iron Man and Doctor
Thor.
Strange is the same story, or Thor also is the same story. Would you say poetry also has a bit of that kind of structure in it that would help?
I would like to think that at least mine has. Because I like to have a twist, you know? I like to have a point that I'm trying to make. And before I wrote poetry, I wrote speeches, I wrote scripts, you know, and every time it follows that structure. And there's always, you know, there's always a reason why you follow that structure. Just like why people rhyme sometimes. It sounds better, you know? And that flow, that particular structure that you just described, that is basically the best way to tell a story, right? I mean,
think
you
so.
can always start from below and then go up a bit,
Yeah.
and then you have some dilemma or something like that, and you disappoint everyone, and then in the end you redeem yourself.
Yeah.
But it's always
It's always like,
end at the top.
I'm at A, I want to go to B, but then I'm at C. Well, how then the resolution from the C to the B or to the D. That's where the story is at. That's the meat, right? So what's your current message?
Style.
Yeah. What's your current message?
My current message is I'm writing the most recent piece I'm writing is called "Do You Remember What Your Poetry Is For?" And it's actually a message to other poets.
Nice.
It's kind of to talk about these things, that I have collected that I would feel would be an improvement to the scene if they took it to heart, if they really understood what I'm trying to say without prejudice or without any offense taken, because I think it's clear that I care for the scene. I think it's clear that I want it to progress. I hope that they take the advice. That's all. I think that's the other thing. Every time I meet poets, they're always telling us like, oh, we need to meet more because, we're a small community and we need to make it grow. Therefore, we need to collaborate, we need to unite together and this and that. But oftentimes, we're also busy just doing our own things that we never have the time to talk or say things to each other. Something of particular benefit, I hope that this poem will do that. Just a message to them in case you don't have time to hear anything else I say. This poem,
But listen to this podcast, got a lot of valuable information.
Oh yeah, yes, Teroka. Shout out.
I mean, I'm sure we have inspired bits and pieces of what was it called again? Do you remember?
Bits and pieces of.
No, the title of your poem.
Do you remember what your poetry is for?
Do you remember what your poetry is for?
Yes,
right?
yeah, definitely.
I'm sure we have inspired a part of it. Here today.
I'm sure too.
Speaking about it.
Sure.
All your auditors sitting in that room, write some poetry, man.
Yeah.
For your clients.
Listen out for your names, guys.
For your partners.
How long have you been writing this piece now?
A few months.
Now in Param stage. I see.
Yeah, I might debut it in Manila, I think.
Ooh,
oh, cool.
Which is this week.
Yeah, I'm going to Manila to participate in the Performatura Festival 2019. There's like a performing arts festival they have every year. It's quite big and I've been invited to perform and run a workshop. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. Busy man. Being the champion and all.
Being what was it I was gonna say writing, right? Takes you a few months. I'm sure you get writer's block.
Yeah.
I mean, I read audit reports and I get writer's block.
For audit reports.
But how do you deal with it?
I like to enjoy other arts. Because
enjoy consuming other
arts,
What other arts?
Any other art. Music, movies. I feel like if you view like writer's block as a block in, oh my god, I cannot write. The truth is, if you were say a songwriter or whatever, right, and if you had a writer's block, you probably wouldn't be as inspired to do anything else anyway. You probably couldn't pick up the guitar and suddenly write a song.
Yes.
If there is no inspiration, there's no inspiration full stop. Right? I think you should go out there and enjoy, absorb other things that life has, other forms of art that can inspire you. Sometimes you look at a dancer and you're like, wow. Sometimes you listen to a song and you're like, well, actually that's a cool concept. Maybe I can elaborate on it in my poetry. I think there's tons of inspiration.
So it goes against, right, that grain of thought where you need to work hard on it. Right? Don't you think so? Like, it's very weird. I read once in some psychologist book, I can't remember his name, but he was like, do you notice that every time you get a block, whether is it a art thing or is it a logic thing, like Einstein famously said, like, go take a walk, right? Don't just sit down there and look at the problem. Just go take a walk.
right.
Sleep on it.
Don't do anything.
Yeah. Don't just keep doing the same thing, right? So for you, the process is the same as well.
Yeah. I feel like a change in environment, a change in mentality, a change in thinking, a change of what I'm absorbing every day also helps. Like, there's this quote that I really like and can't remember who it's from. Get back to you on that. But shout out to whoever said this. It was something like inspiration is for amateurs. The rest of us just get up and get on with it.
So instead of waiting for inspiration, you
Get out and get on with it lah.
do
Because
other things in life and try to let it
stop,
come to you.
Stop lamenting your lack of inspiration and go find it if you think that's what you need. You know, if you think that's what you need. But if you don't, just shut down. Just sit down and get on with it lah. You know, I mean, if you're gonna be waiting for inspiration all day, that's an amateur move, don't you think?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So inspiration is really for amateurs, and it kind of takes a lot of pressure off people in the creative line because, you know, you're always expected to, wow, this one came from your inspiration, bro. No, this one came from my skills, experience, knowledge, and hard work. How's that? Is it less creative?
There does not always have to be a
spark
story
of inspiration
and like,
oh my god, I was walking
a
down the road and then a bird
profound
shat on
moment.
my head, and then oh my god, I wrote this poem about shit, but no.
Shit and bird.
bird shit. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just like calm it down on this whole, I don't have inspiration thing. You know, you don't have it, go and find it.
And I think
Like a
that's
professional lah.
That's applicable to not just poetry, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's a writing block or like you say a logic block, and if you're stuck
like
in
just-
life and you don't know like how to deal with people or
A
situations.
block that, you know, you don't want to wake up. You just don't want to wake up to go to work, you know.
Yeah.
I felt that many times.
Yeah, we've all been there,
Right.
bro.
Just extra one snooze lah, extra 9 minutes to that lah. I just extra 9 minutes to work only, see what happens. Just see what happens. Boss don't make noise or extra 9 minutes tomorrow lah. Let's see how far I can push it, you know. Work still get done what? You know? All the excuses, right? But it's true though. I think like you gotta make mistakes to find out where you wanna go. Right? It's through mistakes where you learn.
Yeah.
But it's hard lah. You're always brought up not to make mistake. What?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think we would have the chance to hear you perform something today?
Probably not.
Okay. We can maybe like put in an audio
Yeah.
if that's alright.
Yeah.
Just spit out some rhymes, man. I'll like make a beat.
Can you beatbox it?
But no.
If you can, I would suggest that new channel.
you channel, yeah?
The name will be Big Beatboxing.
Beatboxing. right. Nice. I like that. I like that.
Okay, maybe I'll read you guys one line. Alright.
Okay. We'll do it at the end though.
Okay.
So you,
Okay.
because
Like a
you look
small
a
round cup.
little bit nervous now.
Yeah,
right?
bro. I'm always
It's your
nervous.
first. You did mention that as well.
Of course, bro.
The other day.
Like, I think if you're a performer and you're not nervous before you perform, then you don't care enough about your art.
Really?
Yeah.
What if I...
Because I've met like veterans, you know, I've met like proper veterans, national laureates and stuff who still have the jitters. Why? Because they care.
Which, even when Sheena Baharudin got on stage, she said the same thing.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
She doesn't know why.
Yeah. I mean,
She's so nervous.
why do you think rock stars and everything have to drink and take drugs so much? Because they get super nervy on stage. I mean, you're performing in front of like berpuluh-puluh ribu orang and stuff, you know? And you're telling me you don't need any encouragement?
Are you a rock star?
Wow. No.
Wow. What kind of encouragement do you take? Coffee maybe?
My fiance gives me all the support I need.
Nice,
Nice, 100 points right there, 100 points in the bag.
Shout out to Azam's fiance, Hanif.
Claim that later. Redeem them points. Something.
Redeem them points like bonus link, bro.
Bonus link.
Can exchange for toothbrush.
Free gifts and
Speaking
vouchers.
about bonus link, so why I say if we have the chance for you to perform something on stage, at least I find that you have a very distinct style,
Yes.
especially in the way you like your intonation,
Yes.
your pronunciation,
Yes.
and the way you
inflection.
pull it. And sometimes after I watch you, I'm driving home and I'm like talking to myself in that
Stuck,
voice.
yeah, stuck. Yeah.
Oh man,
Yeah.
guys.
And I think maybe I haven't listened to that many poets, but where did this style come from? Was it there from the first day? What I'm referring to is like,
Is that your inner voice? Is that how you talk to yourself?
Honestly, I don't know really how I.
but do you know what I'm talking about? Like what poem is that? The one about hugs. Do you like
Oh, Addict.
na 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 na?
Yes.
Like, I like that.
That cadence.
Yeah.
Cadence.
Yeah. It's like a pacing, like a tempo kind of thing, but not so strict, right? Yeah.
I find it to be very like you, this style, and
I can listen to all the words.
And I can listen to all the words.
That's
I
the
didn't
best
mumble
thing.
rap, is it?
No, some poets they condense their word. I feel they make it very fast.
Oh yeah.
So like super focused, bro. After like, and then like after one beer, it's like shit, can't follow. Yeah,
That's the thing
but
too.
I'm a
I
bit
mean,
slow, lah,
yeah.
you know, yeah.
No, honestly, like I also maybe sometimes find difficulty in that because like poetry is an emotional thing, right? And emotions don't like turn on and off in 1 second. So you kind of need to build up to it. That's why I stretch some words and I take my time sometimes and I let the feeling sink in, because at the end of the day, it can be a very short poem, but if it hits the feels, it hits the feels. You know, it doesn't matter how many words I say.
So when you write it, because I'm sure when you write it as well, you are verbalizing it already to hear what it sounds like.
Actually, I verbalize first, then I write down.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you follow the tone, right?
Only when it sounds good, because I know that I'm not writing for people to read it. I'm writing for people to hear it.
But you already know how it's gonna sound, is it? Like, so this goes back then to your style. Like, are all your poems in this sort of like pretty clear?
Yeah, I
and
would
like stretch. I like this word stretching and like pause, and then like,
I would like to think so. That's what I try to do. You
Yeah.
know? I mean, I hope it comes across every
The
time.
pause is like sinking in. Then the next line start.
But that takes, planning lah. It takes some thought. Like, I can assure you, the first time that I performed any of those poems, it probably didn't sound as good. But it takes you to hear it a few times and you're like, actually. So the later, that's why a lot of people are kind of like, I mean, some people are a bit annoyed that, Azam, you don't perform new poems enough. You should write more poems. You should perform new poems enough. But like, the truth is, I feel like the poems that I performed, I can do it better. You know? And I'm a bit obsessive in that way.
Yeah.
Like, until I perform it the best way and I get the best kind of recording and I'm like, okay, I'm happy with this. Then I can move on, Because I feel like there's something left there.
Yeah.
I cannot leave my art like tergantung there, you know?
So
And
it's like 75%, you want to push it further.
Yeah, and if Muhammad Haji Saleh can spend years on one poem, like, I can't spend a few shows on reciting the same one. That's why I'm a bit more, I don't know, I'm a bit more selective when I release new poem and stuff, because it means I've put in a lot of work. I've memorized the whole thing. Yeah, it took months in writing,
So when you're showering also, you recite the same poems.
Yeah, it's a very noisy shower.
coming back to showering again and again, huh, kid?
That's right in his article, man. It's right in it, in the start, I think.
Did it? Oh my god.
Yeah, it's like you said
your article.
if you hear me talking in the shower, so
I did, oh my god.
find it out.
Hannes, we
dig
need
it
to
out.
fact check here. Like, does he talk in the shower?
Right. I'll be Jamie today. I can do the fact checking.
Quite sure I wasn't so casual.
But you mentioned also releasing poetry. If musicians have singles and albums, do you only have a book?
Most poets have books.
Right. Sorry about that, guys. Should have silenced my phone.
So musicians have singles and albums. Like,
Poets have books. Some of them publish books. Some of them publish in anthologies. Some people publish it in a collection of other poetries. Some people publish it online. They do it on their Instagram. They do it on Facebook.
and what about you?
I like to think I'm a bit more exclusive.
Nothing on paper.
Almost nothing on paper. Yeah. Because I never went into poetry because I like reading or I like writing. I went into poetry because I like performing. To me, there's no point in not performing it.
Yeah.
And because, as I said again before, I'm a bit obsessive.
Yeah.
I'm a bit controlling in how I want the lights and everything to be.
Yeah.
So I want my poem to be heard at that particular point of time when everything is looking and feeling like that.
Like that, yeah.
If you take my poem and you go back home and in your toilet or something like that while you're having a shit or something like that, you read my poem, I doubt it will have as good an impact as when you saw me on stage.
Because you're trying to provide a feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or if it does, like, you are damn good in the toilet, you know?
Yeah, but
Can be voice actor already.
how many books you read during a shit actually hit you like that, like, you know, got you standing during your giving a standing ovation, no, right? You know?
So,
which I hope not. A bit messy toilet. Anyway.
Curious. So coming back, like apparently you did an interview with some guy on 7 Pi.
Oh yeah, 7 Pi.
Yeah.
That's Shireen Ho. Yes.
Let me see. Yes.
Shireen Ho.
Shireen
Shireen Ho.
Ho,
Thank
yeah.
you, Shireen Ho. Okay.
And yeah, she asked you whether do you have any artistic guilty pleasure, to which you answer, oh, I do. Haha. I take really long showers. I'm going to whip out my poetic license here and justify that I'm most inspired after a bath and I don't waste water. I just like pace around a lot. So if you hear poetry from the bathroom, just say hi.
You probably have to shout lah, because I'm pretty loud. You know?
Oh, so it's like
It
you're
wouldn't be
imagining like it's a full stage.
Hey bro, it's full lighting, audio, everything. I'm grabbing the mic stand, everything, bro. You know,
And that's the shampoo bottle. Lah.
I'm looking at ovations, standing ovations all around. It's just don't ruin my
Like
vibe.
that noise, that water, that's not water.
Yeah, it's
man.
just
That's
cheering.
applause.
Spray on the grass a bit.
Yeah.
See, the thing is that it's funny because I do the same thing, but with sales lah. Like when I sell a house, top to bottom, bro. Every word that come out of my mouth is rehearsed. Like I know what to say, when to say it, because I can't remember all the facts if I don't memorize them. Yeah. And I don't
you're
feel
always
like
most impressive when it comes out.
naturally.
Yeah, without having to refer.
And I don't have to worry about so
When it comes out naturally, but not actually naturally, right? Because
No, so my trick is that if you want to sell something, you have to know something inside out so well and you know how to say, how to present that you don't have to think about it anymore and never sound like you're reading off a script, even though you are. So you memorize the whole thing, right? And then then I know like if I stand here, what's going to come out. If I stand there, what's going to come out. The same line every single time.
Yeah.
Can get quite boring sometimes because I'm not performing. But in some way, I think like I'm performing.
You are.
Right? And then at the end of the day, then only I have the mental clarity and the energy to actually address real concerns. Because if I have to think about what to present to you, I already use so much brain energy. By the time you sit down and ask me one more question, I'll be like, oh shit.
Yeah, I need to use the troubleshooting capacity, you know?
Yeah. So as much as possible, it's like, I always like to say it's like an exam lah. Every time it's a make or break, right?
Yeah, you know, I used to debate when I was young, right? And I actually did this experiment, right? I was like, okay, you know what? Like, some of the judges, they're easily impressed when, you know, you give some bombastic lines. And at school level, maybe that worked a lot better, you know? So what I did was, at school level, I was like, you know what? Maybe my points suck, but I'm going to end with the same bombastic line every time. And I'm going to see if I win the debate, right? And one of these debate rounds, I had really sucky points, but I was like, you know what? This particular conclusion is really powerful, you know? So I rehearsed it so many times. Ended it with that, I won every round, bro.
Yeah.
So what that kind of says is that, like, when you practice something so well and it's so impressive, like, sometimes you can catch people when they're, like, wandering off and all they hear is, like, wow, this bombastic line.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, but you missed all my points, though. But it's cool because it sucked.
Because there's a centerpiece in their mind and they remember that, that you like, that boy was quite eloquent.
Yeah.
What was the point though? Fuck it.
And
they
like,
all sound the same.
Yeah, and in literature, you always learn, like, who has the last say has the last laugh. Right? Like, you know, people who left, you know, like, so many examples of, like, people of the most strongest characters, strongest messages being sent at the last line of a song or the last line of a script or something like that, right? And I think that's really true in poetry as well. Like, if your poem is going to be all about one topic, right? And you don't switch it up at the end, or you don't have something else to offer in the end, it might get monotonous. Because there are not many poets, I feel like, who can hold their ground, who can hold the attention of the crowd without assistance from anything else. Yeah. Without a dancer, without a musician on stage, just you on stage. That takes a lot of skill, you know? And you
You need to have the stage presence also.
Yeah.
I imagine, like going up and like owning it, right?
yeah.
But because half the time I think like I haven't done this before, lah. But I imagine if you stand in front of the stage and you feel like you're not good enough to give something to the people who are expecting, right? And that could be a problem, right?
Definitely, bro.
Then the people look at you like, right?
That's why I don't perform at some shows sometimes,
Ah.
because I feel like I don't have anything to give to them.
Ah.
You know?
I think you're just being too hard on yourself there.
No, to be honest, like if I feel like this is the kind of show that would attract, this
Certain
group
crowd
of
that-
people who have seen me before,
Right.
and they're only gonna see the same things again. Like, no need lah.
Hmm.
I would rather present them something new,
Hmm.
than to present them the same things again, and then it's not as inspiring perhaps. Second time you hear it, or third time you hear it. Not to say
So when you go on stage, do you have that like, I got this ace up my sleeve and I'm gonna wow these fuckers, like you're gonna get your money's worth. So you feel like in front of the mic, behind the mic, you feel like, you all wait.
sometimes
Like wait
I
for
do
the
lah.
line drop.
Sometimes I do.
like
You
DJs,
get your
you know?
snaps ready for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah, I think I do.
Shit.
But I work a lot of debate, a lot of public speaking, a lot of drama that I used to do, theatre and drama that I used to do into the performance, I feel like it's kind of pointless if you just do that. Like, you watch actors on stage, the hand movements they do and this and that. That's the kind of thing that you can copy as well. You don't always want to see the poet with the phone covering his face, You want
Hiding behind the phone.
Yeah.
Ah.
And you don't always want to see a poet with a mic. You don't always want to see a poet behind a podium. You sometimes you gotta switch it up. Yeah. That's what I like to see, evolution in artists,
Has anyone tried like the rock star stance? Holding it like
Rockstar
that.
stance.
Yeah, just something different, Just go up.
I've seen one lying down. I've seen one sitting down.
Lying down?
Yeah.
Lying down. Like,
Yeah, lying down.
huh. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Then,
Also, bonus point, don't have to look at anyone. Cheat
Look
your
at
way
the
through.
lights, look at the lights.
then there are ones that, put in synthesized music in, synthesized sounds. Yeah.
Like his voice is
that could be
synthesized.
interesting. That could be interesting.
And
Then he
that-
pressed to make poetry. Whoa.
It's
So like a DJ like that.
a noise poetry kind of thing where he has like he
Ambient.
ambient sounds kind of thing, different feels.
Oh, wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so that's called noise poetry. Some people do that as well. Some people like to perform with like accompaniment. Some people, I don't know, different things, I guess. But I feel like, I know poets who worked in theatre. I know poets who wrote scripts. I know poets who wrote slogans for Milo. I know poets who wrote theses about poetry. Different things they do, I think just like poetry, the poet's also very different. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I think we are coming to like
2 hours?
the end of the show soon.
Have you been talking for so long?
We've talking about an hour and a half.
Wow.
I hope that I'm mustering some confidence for you to like give us a couple of lines
Oh, couple of lines, yes.
Yeah.
or whatever you are interested in sharing with
Maybe
the
you can start
listeners.
first with the
thousands
school
of
again.
listeners.
Like, can we just have a go from you first? Warm up for.
Yeah, just warm it.
Yeah.
No, I mean we still have
Yeah.
things to talk about.
Was it that you go to school
I go to school and I'm cool.
and you're cool?
And you're a fool.
Huh.
So
So.
you got anything else that you
You want to
wanna
add to that, kid? Or?
ask? I think
I thought about a joke poetry to do your introduction. It was so bad that I thought like better not lah. Like,
come on, let's hear it. Let's hear it.
From the east, the sunrise. I am Chinese, so I like to eat rice. And tonight we have Azam Rais.
Yes, sir.
Something like that, right?
That's good, man. That's
It's
good.
ridiculous. like,
That's really nice.
That's
it's
really
really
nice.
nice.
I
feel like you like some spice.
Yeah, I feel like I like some spice. So that's the kind of like poetry that if I go for Ruminate, I need to hear like a deeper level.
Maybe that won't make the lineup.
That
but,
won't
like,
make the cut.
Maybe, yeah.
Hey, do someone do like humor style poetry? Would that be funny? Would that be fun to do?
They tried.
Yeah, but it's not funny.
If you're funny, then it will come out funny lah. But someone not so funny, alright.
Maybe I should try a wacky one.
Yeah.
Can I get a...
Yeah.
Do you have open mic that
Yeah,
I can like embarrass myself on stage?
Yeah, go ahead, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somehow
Maybe-
try to rhyme Teroka podcast in, just to plug myself in. Yeah.
Yeah, we can have a poetry section as well on like the website.
Huh.
Maybe we'll be featured on PoetX. Do some cross selling here.
Dude, we should go with innocence and humor, man. I think that'd be
Yeah.
fun. Yeah. And it would be super hilarious if some kid copy your poetry and give it to his dad. Right, that would be the goal.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyways.
And what would you say, like, as a person who's also a poet, back then, like when you were starting up, what was the worst advice that you got?
Worst advice I got.
Yeah. We always hear shit about like, what do you have to say to people, who want to do this? But like,
Yeah.
what's the worst thing that somebody told you?
I think one of the worst advice I got was because my style is like I focus on rhyme schemes, and I could not, but I like the challenge, and I feel like it's more challenging, and when the audience receives it, it's easier appreciated. But one of the advice I got was that, Azam, you should switch it up because you always tend to rhyme. Like, Azam, you open your mouth, confirm you rhyme lah. That kind of thing, And it was not said in a, like, I admire your rhymes.
Positive
It was more of like a,
Rude.
it's like nothing new lah. Azam always rhymes. And what they don't know is that I put a lot of work into the rhyme. There are a lot of internal rhyme schemes that you actually, if you analyze, there are internal rhymes in almost every sentence. And there are word repetitions, there are alliterations and assignations in all my poems. And I guess that's what they don't see, but that kind of shook my faith a bit. That made me think like, maybe I should, change it up or something like that.
But this is coming from like what, people who know their shit or people who are just listening?
Surprisingly, this was coming from someone who I respected a lot, So that's why that comment made me really think about it again. But I find that sometimes, people say things more as a reflection of themselves than what they think of you. Yeah. If I can put that as subtly and as poetic as possible.
Basically, fuck you.
I did not say
For our
that.
listeners.
Yeah.
But I think these are the things that make you really...
Oh, there's another advice that I got that was quite bad also. Which was PoetX was actually involved in a lot of arts activism. Because we felt like the place of arts, me being me, there needs to be a message, there needs to be a purpose to things,
Yeah.
So I wanted PoetX to also have a higher purpose. So that's why we collaborated with a lot of like NGOs and universities and students to bring like campaigns into their universities. We did mental health, we did sexual abuse, we did anti-pedophilia. We taught them about a lot of new things, a lot of current issues that they didn't know. But one of the advice that I got was, Azam, I don't think that your work in activism is suitable for poetry. Like, you shouldn't connect the two together. Because then they will liken poetry to all these things. And again, this was a person that I respected, and that got me thinking like really macam, what I built the PoetX brand on, what I spent years on was just all for nothing, So that really made me think like, maybe that's a wrong way. But sometimes, as I said, people like to project themselves onto you when they are themselves not doing so well. So sometimes they find ways to kind of make you feel as bad as they are. Yeah. So I had to learn that the hard way and realize that, that's just bullshit. You're just jealous.
But that's the defining thing, wouldn't you say? Like, going through that process.
Yeah.
And especially someone that you respect tell you that.
Yeah.
And then you come out with it, it's like, no.
Yeah.
It takes balls, man, I feel.
It does.
To say that. Like it's so you come into more
But
of
it takes
your own.
time too.
Yeah.
It takes time for you to like realize that some people are full of thought. Some people are just full of
Shit.
Yeah, I
completely
guess
fine,
like
it's okay.
you build your own self-confidence as well, and then you're more like aware of what exactly it is that you are doing and your effect on people.
Following that, I would say that, if to all the young poets out there, if you ever hear people criticizing your work and telling you that, what you're doing is not the right way, what's not the right direction, let me just tell you, historically, like being a poet was not the right direction anyway. It's not the most economically beneficial. It was not the most like mother-in-law favorite occupation. No, So if you're gonna do it all the way.
Yeah, go for broke, man.
Yeah, go for broke. Don't be scared and be like, oh my god, some people don't support me, some people support me. Forget about that. Just focus on your art, make it better every day, and think about who you're trying to reach.
Yeah. I think I'd like to add on as well, because I also feel like maybe recently went through some sort of like similar thought process. And I think one of the biggest problem to know whether you like something because of the novelty of, let's say, poetry. Do I like poetry because of the novelty of it? Or do I like it because this is what I do? Like you say, right? Like, aside from studying, like poetry is what you do, like you like to perform and you seem to, gravitate towards that. And I think when people tend to question whether should I be doing this, that fella said that, what should I do then? It's just like SPM, Like, should I go to science stream? Should I go to art stream? How? My dad said this, my mom said that, but then that guy got a lot of money, stay big house or art stream student all last time. How? You know that kind of dilemma.
But then my smart friend all science stream.
Correct.
How?
It always pops up. This kind of like
you
decision
should just
making.
say, hey, I want to do arts, right? I feel like if the art stream was not going to give you any money, then don't have the fucking art stream, right? But there's a possibility for that to happen because there's a world out there that you can get paid through this human sciences scheme.
But are you trying to say that there are a lot of people who do it for the novelty of doing poetry?
No, I think like that's for anything else, like I think I like to do a lot of different things. I'm naturally curious in many subjects, but I don't like all of it. Like, I enjoy it, but doesn't mean I would devote 24 hours to it compared to certain thing else, right? So sometimes it's hard to know when to give up. Because let's say I play badminton and I'm reasonably good and I kick a lot of people's butt, then I go to maybe a level where people start kicking my butt and I need to train. And then the question become like, why can't I train to be as good as maybe Chong Wei? Because he really liked the sport. Day in, day out, he's thinking about it. He's sleeping also, he's swinging his arm. Right? I mean, he's talking about poetry in the showers. Yeah. Right? And if you don't have that kind of like devotion to it, then maybe it's not for you. But it's always hard to find out, because I'm sure people tell you again, why you want to play badminton? Only got one Chong Wei, You think you can be Chong Wei? There's always doubt. There's always this kind of question that come about. Yeah. So I think the only way to really know is if you push yourself and you observe yourself to see whether you fall back into that field. Yeah. So it's weird. I think sometimes you need to take advice, sometimes not so much. Right?
Agreed.
Right.
But I feel like, I mean, if you're already gonna do something rebellious, then be a rebel. Don't do something rebellious without being a rebel.
And I think, at the end of the day, you gotta listen to yourself as well.
Yeah, I think that's the message, Right. You take in other people's opinion and you test it against yourself. Maybe you don't want to be a rebel. Maybe you want to be an auditor. Why not?
Yeah.
We need auditors. Accounts need to be vetted.
True that? Yeah. Go for it.
Go for it, man.
Only 4 more hours till you go home.
just to be clear now, it's 9:30.
Yeah.
9:30 p.m. We're recording this. Yeah, another 4 more hours and you're free. Thanks for listening.
Go back now, is it? What's so early?
If you're an auditor and you're listening to this podcast, bro,
thank you.
Bro, your boss should know you don't have enough work.
Yeah.
Alright? No peak period, is it?
Also, definitely can't audit with listening to people talk.
Yeah.
Can you?
How?
I don't know.
Cannot.
It's better when you just hear nothing like when the whole office is empty and you're just the last person there, yeah, that's the best time to do the work. That's why they keep you there that long.
But then you hear the sad hum of the aircon though. And then suddenly quiet.
Yeah, and some door somewhere would.
Yeah,
Yeah.
bro. Oh my god. Yeah, man. Sorry, just took me back to a time where I had to go to a client's office. It was haunted, bro. Oh my god.
Haunted office?
Yeah, bro.
Can you say which one is it?
Oh man.
No. Okay, it's okay. You have to say. But yeah, what happened?
Oh, it's like one of those times where you get to stay late, right? And you know everyone had left. And then suddenly you hear like people like opening the door and like the printer starting and everything.
Yeah, dude.
And you're
Damn
just like,
freaky.
oh,
Sound the scene.
That's
You know the
interesting.
churning sound from the printer? Suddenly it just goes like choo 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 choo, and then you're like, I didn't press Control P, bro. I didn't hit anything. Yeah. Or like, you know, if it's like 12 a.m. and then someone accidentally turn off the lights because they think they're the last one. You ever
Oh,
experienced
it's not
that? You're
funny,
working, pop. It's like, oi!
Oh my
Yeah, bro.
Then you hear the sorry.
Yeah, you know, bro.
But you don't see the face, ah. You hear the sorry. Yeah. And then you hear the beep. The door.
Don't you guys miss like office life? Go on. Come back, man. Come back.
Some parts I miss, I guess. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So, are you ready?
Oh wait, yeah.
Dazzle us.
Okay. So,
This is a new one, right?
this is an excerpt from the new one.
Right.
Ooh.
Exclusive,
Unreleased.
guys. Unreleased.
Unreleased.
This is the release radar with Kid and Cash. On this episode of Teroka, now we're gonna have Azam like lay it down for us.
Trailer a bit.
Trailer a bit,
Like
okay,
Avengers
okay.
Endgame. Got 1 version, 2, 3. One version today.
You're freaking me out. Okay. All right. So again, this poem is called "Do You Remember What Your Poetry Is For?" It's a reminder to all the poets out there. This is just like an excerpt from it. It's not really from the start or from the end. I'm just gonna leave it like, okay. Anyway,
Right. Trailer.
Scene. Do you remember what your poetry is for? 'Cause you say you don't believe everything you see. So why do you believe everything you hear? Is this out of friendship or is this out of fear? I see how you change whenever I come near. And at first, man, this was something I denied. Something I let slide. Something I would hide just to feel better inside. And truth is a hard drink to take. That's why we lick our wounds and bite into excuses. Chase it with our dreams, 'cause not all is as it seems. See, we were stitching things together when it was tearing at its seams. And I don't mean to be so mean. Don't mean to ponder on what could have been. How this could have been us and the things we would have seen. But I guess right now, you and I are just two different things.
Chills, man. So good.
Fucking amazing, Azam Rais.
The end. Thank you. Thank you. Performance voice.
Man.
Scene.
Tenang diri.
Man, after like this excerpt, like we can go on for another hour talking about this.
So what does it mean though?
So there seems to be like some.
You want me to name who I'm dedicating it to or something? Yeah?
Can you? Hey.
But it seems like
It's a
like
personal
there's
story.
some beef.
There was a personal story lah. Some, you know.
There's
I guess
some-
when you're so close to someone, there's always gonna be some friction.
That's how you know you're close, right?
Interesting.
Like at the club when you're grinding, there's friction.
At the cloud when you're grinding.
There's friction.
At the cloud.
Club.
Cloud. I hear cloud. I was like, some proton and photon right there. Sorry.
I mean, you could also be on the cloud and grinding.
Oh, snap.
Snap.
Yeah, you want to shout it out? Yeah. I just plug my John real quick.
Okay, I think we shall wrap it up on that
Wrap it
note.
up and roll it up.
And roll it out.
Roll it
Azam,
out.
thank you
Thank
very
you.
much for being on the show.
Thank you guys for having me.
Looking forward to this for a while now.
Thank you.
When is your next show?
My
Volume
next show is in KL or
No, volume 3 or
Volume 3 or
Ruminate.
Ruminate.
Volume
Yeah.
3. Or we have not yet come up with the date, but we will.
Okay.
Yeah, let you know.
And in the meantime, people can catch you on PoetX
PoetX Podcast.
Where else can they find you?
Or find me on Instagram, Azam Rais, AZAMRAIS. Or find me at PoetX Podcast at PoetX Podcast. PoetX Podcast. I'm also on Facebook. That's about it.
Okay. we will also have all the links in the site.
In the description.
Yeah.
You can find him. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you.
Thank you,
so
Kit.
much.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Teroka Podcast. Thank you, Cash, for having me over. And it was a pleasure and honor to be part of your podcast.
Thank you,
Awesome.
thank you. Okay.
And thank you guys for listening.
All right. Ciao.
Ciao.